You've been taught to be kind, open, and emotionally available. Yet despite this, you're ignored, ghosted, and left wondering what went wrong. The issue? You're following rules designed to weaken you. Today, I'll show you the real game, the unspoken rules women respond to instinctively, even if they never say them out loud. Master these, and you'll stop chasing. They'll come to you. Every human interaction carries an invisible hierarchy. Behind smiles and small talk lies a primal language of power, expressed through posture, tone, presence, and above all, consequence. The man who understands this doesn't seek attention. He attracts it naturally through his presence. For women, attraction rarely centers on surface-level traits. It's about how a man influences his environment. Power, not words, is the real seduction. When a man walks into a room and the energy shifts, when people pause, glances follow, and tension builds, that is power. It's not about volume, flashiness, or aggression. Real power is quiet. It's the stillness before the storm. A powerful man doesn't need validation. His actions speak for him. His decisions carry weight. His movements are deliberate, his silence intentional. This quiet strength sparks curiosity. It builds desire. It triggers something primal in women, an attraction even they may not fully understand. Power creates certainty. And in a world full of uncertainty, certainty in a man is magnetic. A woman doesn't just want financial or physical safety. She wants emotional leadership. She seeks the man who needs nothing, because he becomes the man worth everything. His world doesn't revolve around her. She must qualify to be part of his. This flips the usual script. When a man radiates power, women don't ask, "Do I want him?" They start asking, "Does he want me?" This power isn't limited to money or status, though both can amplify it. It starts from within. A man with purpose, direction, and control over his reality naturally exudes power. He doesn't talk excessively because he understands that words without authority are hollow. He doesn't over-explain, because explanation often implies submission. He moves like someone who knows where he's headed, even if others don't see the vision yet. This isn't arrogance. It's command. Attractiveness becomes less about physical looks and more about psychological dominance. A woman may admire a handsome man, but she becomes obsessed with the one who sees through her. The man who doesn't fidget or seek approval. The one who listens more than he speaks, not out of passivity, but precision. That's the man who can't be manipulated. That's the man whose validation matters. And because it must be earned, it becomes far more valuable. Many men believe attraction is won through flattery, vulnerability, and emotional availability. While these traits might win appreciation, they rarely inspire obsession. Women don't crave men who follow. They crave men they can't quite figure out, men who could walk away at any moment, not out of cruelty, but from complete self-possession. The man with options doesn't beg. And the man who never begs often becomes the one most desired. To embody power is to become a mirror for her uncertainty. She begins to wonder about her place in your world. That tension, your stillness versus her leaning in, becomes the very spark of attraction. Suddenly, you're not chasing beauty. Beauty is chasing you. This isn't about manipulation or cruelty. It's about presence. A presence so strong that others must adjust around you. You don't control others. You control yourself so thoroughly that others naturally respond. Power doesn't demand. It influences. It attracts without effort. Understand this. A man can be wealthy, attractive, or charming. But without internal power, he will always be overshadowed by the man who has mastered himself. Women sense this. They may challenge it, test it, but they ultimately respond to it. They don't seek perfection. They seek the balance between danger and control, unpredictability and certainty. Nothing delivers that more than a man who can walk away without hesitation, because he answers to a higher standard than anyone's approval. Power attracts. Desire follows. This is not a theory, it's nature. And it's yours to claim, if you have the discipline to claim yourself first. The world will follow. So will she. Rule 2, don't chase. Replace. Desire doesn't thrive on abundance, it feeds on absence. The human mind is not wired to crave what is always available. It yearns for what it can't quite have. Scarcity is the most powerful lever in attraction. Yet most men sabotage themselves by being too available, too eager, too constant. In doing so, they erase the very mystery that creates desire. When something is always within reach, it becomes mundane. Predictable. Unremarkable. But when it disappears without explanation, when it can't be summoned at will, it becomes an obsession. The mind seeks answers. It demands closure. This isn't just about romance. It's a psychological principle. What we can't fully possess, we idealize. And what we idealize, we pursue with intensity. Scarcity activates imagination. And imagination is more powerful than reality when it comes to attraction. A woman doesn't fantasize about the man constantly seeking her attention. She fantasizes about the one who appears briefly, leaves a deep impression, and disappears. The one who doesn't respond instantly. The one who doesn't need to be seen to be unforgettable. His absence says more than another man's words. His silence echoes louder than compliments. His unpredictability plants tension that loops in her mind. What's he doing? Who is he with? Is he even thinking about me? That void invites fantasy. The man who's always present leaves no room for mystery. No space for desire to grow. But the man who withholds himself wisely becomes unforgettable. He's not defined by constant contact, but by the lingering effect of his absence. That's where obsession begins, in the uncertainty of the one she can't predict. Most men equate availability with loyalty. They think being ever-present proves worth. In reality, it screams neediness. And neediness is the death of desire. It signals low status, no options, and no control. Availability, when excessive, implies your time is cheap. And what's cheap is never valued. Scarcity, on the other hand, signals that your life is full. That your time is expensive. That she must earn her place in it. This changes everything. The man who's hard to get becomes a challenge. And women value what they work for. The more she invests, emotionally, mentally, physically, the deeper her attachment becomes. What begins as attraction becomes entanglement. Scarcity doesn't mean total silence. It's a calculated rhythm, show just enough to spark interest, then disappear to let it build. Leave hints, not footprints. Respond when it aligns with your priorities, not hers. Your time isn't an open buffet. It's a limited offering. She doesn't get unlimited access. She must qualify for it. Obsession is born not through excess, but through subtle deprivation. By withholding, you create space for her to want more. The modern world glorifies constant connection. But human desire is ancient. It hasn't changed. A man who isn't constantly reachable becomes rare. And rarity breeds interest. Interest grows into fascination. Fascination, when sustained, becomes a force of desire. Scarcity also creates unpredictability. If she always knows what you're doing, what you'll say, when you're free, she stops wondering. And when she stops wondering, she stops wanting. But when your time is elusive, your replies delayed, your path unknown, she begins to chase. Not because you're playing games. But because your life moves on its own terms. You are not revolving around her. You are your own center of gravity. And she begins to orbit you, eager to stay within reach. When a man masters scarcity, he no longer needs to explain or convince. His distance says more than presence ever could. His return becomes a gift, not a given. The dynamic shifts completely. She becomes the pursuer. Not because you manipulated her, but because you became something too rare to ignore. And what can't be owned becomes unforgettable. Rule 3, let silence speak louder. Every interaction between a man and a woman is a subtle power exchange, not through declarations or control, but through something more elusive, the frame. The frame is the unspoken reality that shapes how both people interpret the moment. Whoever owns the frame dictates the rules. The average man walks into a conversation seeking approval. He adapts. He edits himself. He watches her face for cues. And in doing so, he gives the power away. He enters her frame, her world, her expectations, her definitions. He becomes a responder, not a leader. Women do not submit to men who bend to them psychologically. They are drawn to the man whose reality is so unshakable, she feels compelled to enter it. When she challenges you, it's rarely about logic. It's a pressure test. Can you hold your frame? Will you flinch? If she controls the tempo, tone, and emotional current, then she owns the frame, and you're just a character in her story. And a man without his own narrative is quickly forgotten. The man who holds frame doesn't over-explain. He doesn't justify. He doesn't seek agreement. His presence alone defines the reality. He speaks with conviction, not hesitation. He sets the pace, and she instinctively follows, not because he commands it, but because she senses something stable, grounded, and unshakable. A strong frame doesn't demand control. It invites surrender. When a woman tests you, through chaos, emotion, or games, and you respond with argument, pleading, or insecurity, you've already lost the frame. But when you meet her storms with stillness, with calm eyes, few words, and unwavering composure, she feels the shift. She senses the weight of a man who won't be moved. Your silence becomes a statement. Leadership in attraction is never granted. It's taken, by those who hold the frame so firmly that others fall into orbit. Women aren't repelled by strength. They're repelled by uncertainty. The man who needs approval, who flinches at rejection, who looks to her for emotional direction, has already placed himself beneath her, not through submission, but through lack of self-possession. A powerful frame is born from inner certainty. It can't be faked. Women feel the difference immediately. But when a man speaks with clarity, stands with ease, and meets the world with stillness, she wants to step into his reality. Even when he says nothing, the frame holds. The man who can sit in silence without scrambling to fill it shows he's not a servant to social pressure. The man who listens without jumping to react shows emotional maturity. The man who disagrees calmly reveals a quiet, grounded strength. These subtle signals matter more than any clever words. The man who owns the frame owns more than the moment. He shapes how she feels, what she focuses on, and how she remembers him. He becomes the standard, not because he demands it, but because his reality is more compelling than hers. And in a world drowning in noise, a man who leads in silence becomes magnetic. Rule 4, keep her slightly uncertain. In the quiet war of attraction, the man with the most control isn't the one who feels the most, it's the one who reveals the least. Emotional detachment isn't indifference. It's discipline. Most men expose too much, too soon. They confuse vulnerability with value, and in doing so, they lose the tension that draws a woman in. They bleed affection at the first sign of attention, collapsing the mystery that desire feeds on. But desire isn't built on certainty. It's built on tension, on unpredictability, on unanswered questions. A woman doesn't fall for what she fully understands. She falls for what she's still trying to figure out. The man who doesn't chase when she pulls away, who doesn't react when she tests, who doesn't crumble when she withdraws, that man holds gravity. Not because he's cold, but because his emotions are not up for grabs. He chooses when to feel. He chooses when to speak. He chooses when to care. And that choice creates a power imbalance, one where she's left wondering, questioning, overanalyzing. While she reaches for answers, he remains a mystery. And the mystery becomes the hook. Certainty ends the game. But the man who keeps her guessing, who reveals just enough to spark interest but never enough to fully disarm her, becomes unforgettable. The foundation of this power is self-sufficiency. An emotionally detached man is not immune to feeling. He simply doesn't outsource his emotional stability. His validation is internal. His peace is self-generated. He doesn't need her affection. He chooses to enjoy it, on his terms. While most men unravel when love is withdrawn, he retreats into purpose. While others beg for attention, he remains still. While others demand understanding, he observes in silence. To be emotionally detached is not to be numb, but to be in control. To feel deeply, and still decide what the world gets to see. A woman does not crave the man who opens up to her first. She craves the man who makes her earn it. Who holds his solitude in such high regard, she feels privileged to be let in. She doesn't want to carry your emotional baggage. She wants to feel worthy enough to bypass your walls. In a world of emotionally exposed men, the man who reveals nothing becomes rare. And rarity is irresistible. Rule 5, make her earn what she values. Power in relationships isn't about affection. It's about perception. And the most powerful perception you can create is this. She feels like the most special woman in the world, while knowing, deep down, that she is not irreplaceable. This tension. The illusion of exclusivity wrapped around the quiet truth of optionality, creates devotion. She stays on her toes. She invests. She strives to maintain her place, not out of fear, but because she senses the standard. Most men fail in one of two ways. They give too much, lavishing affection, approval, and loyalty before it's earned. These men are quickly taken for granted. Their love is predictable, their presence assumed. Or they give nothing, playing aloof, distant, disconnected. This might create curiosity at first, but it eventually kills emotional safety. The master lives in the middle. He gives enough to spark hope. He withholds enough to maintain value. He compliments rarely, but with weight. He shows interest, but never desperation. He gives time, but never full access. This balance keeps her engaged. Because once a woman knows her position is secure, the mystery dies. But when she feels that her behavior shapes how close she is to your center, she stays invested. She becomes softer, more feminine, more attentive. Not because you demanded it, but because you designed the conditions for it. Your life should reflect the same balance. Be the man who is in motion. Who has options. Who commands attention from others. Not because you're flaunting it, but because it's real. She must see that you enjoy her presence, but don't need it. You can connect deeply, but never collapse emotionally. You can love sincerely, but never lose yourself in it. That is real power, not controlling her, but controlling yourself. She doesn't need to be threatened to stay engaged. She needs to feel your value so clearly that she wants to rise to it. Eventually, this dynamic takes root. She starts to perform for you, not because she's afraid of losing you, but because she sees what it would cost her. And that cost isn't fear-based. It's value-based. Because you've shown her something few men can. That no matter how much you like her, your standards don't bend. That no matter how connected you feel, your identity is intact. That no matter how special she is not your source of worth. And in that paradox, she finds her deepest desire. To be your chosen one, even if she knows you never needed to choose anyone.